The Steel Prophecy. Have you noticed that human talent just doesn't impress us anymore? Nowadays, to get the masses to watch a ring, we need brutal slap fights, ass-slapping tournaments, or viral blood. The human body has hit its ceiling, and Real Steel, 14 years ago, had an almost prophetic vision of our own decline. And if you look around, the prophecy has already come true. We are living at the peak of robotics, and at the same time, the absolute exhaustion of traditional entertainment. The message is clear. The human body is no longer enough. The masses want more destruction, more brutality, more steel. Today, as real robots start moving with a frightening agility, the inevitable question arises: is real steel actually possible? Will we see the rise of a league where autonomous machines tear each other apart at a speed the human eye can't even follow? And if so, what will we lose along the way? In this video, we'll analyze several scenarios and take a look at a future that, more than promising, looks threatening to who we are and what we might become. The human body has a ceiling, and the worst part is, we've already hit it. No matter how much you train, no matter the supplements or the science you apply, there is an unbreakable limit to speed, strength, and above all, structural endurance. The human brain isn't designed to absorb 1,100 pounds of pressure repeatedly without shutting down. We've reached the peak of our biological evolution in the ring, and for a society used to exponential growth, biology feels desperately slow. We are living in the era of fiber optics, 3-nanometer processors, and instant gratification. In this context, watching two men study each other for 12 rounds is starting to feel like a system error. The sweet science of traditional boxing is becoming a museum piece, something purists appreciate for its historical value. But for the new masses, raised on 5-second clips, it feels boring and archaic. Why do you think absurd exhibition fights or the primitive brutality of slap tournaments are so successful today? It's not about the technique, it's because the public is hungry for an impact that the traditional athlete can no longer give without dying in the process. We are in that transition phase where we seek the morbid thrill of extreme damage because talent just doesn't surprise us anymore. In the movie, human boxing didn't disappear because it was bad, but because it became insufficient for the level of visual violence the modern spectator demands. Charlie Kenton's mistake wasn't quitting boxing, it was being the first to accept the most uncomfortable truth. In a world that seeks the perfection of impact, the fragility of the flesh is a hindrance. For the masses, man is history and steel is the future.
But there's a much darker factor behind the shift, something the movie touches on brilliantly, and that we are starting to feel firsthand: economic desperation and the resentment toward what replaces us. In Real Steel, we see a Charlie Kenton so broke and desperate that he's willing to sell the custody of his own son for money to buy a robot. It's a brutal metaphor for modern society. We are sacrificing our future and our most basic human connections for a technological bet to keep us afloat. We are selling our humanity just to keep playing in a system that no longer belongs to us. Today, millions of people watch with fear as AI and automation take over jobs held by people for years. This inevitably brings a growing hatred toward the machine. But paradoxically, that very feeling is what will fill the stadiums of future robotic leagues. Why? For catharsis. For someone who lost their job in a factory because of a robotic arm, there is nothing more gratifying than seeing a multi-million-dollar humanoid get dismembered in a ring. Watching robots destroy each other isn't just a sport, it's a symbolic vengeance. It's the pleasure of watching money burn in a spectacular way. The robotic ring then becomes the Coliseum of the displaced, a place where humans regain for a moment their dominance over the machine, celebrating its destruction to ease the pain of being replaced by it. In the end, we don't go to robot fights because we love them. We go because deep down, we enjoy seeing the metal that took our bread turn into scrap metal for our delight. In 2025, hardware finally caught up with imagination, but with a difference that makes Real Steel look like child's play. In the movie, the biggest bottleneck was the human. We all remember the frustration of watching Charlie lose Noisy Boy simply because of his own arrogance or distraction. Something similar happened with Ambush. He got distracted by the crowd, didn't know the commands, or simply didn't have the mental speed to react. The robot was an incredible machine, wasted by a mediocre pilot. In our reality, that's not going to happen. We are cutting out the middleman. The robots we see today, like the new combat humanoids, don't need someone to press a button to dodge a hook or land a combo. They don't get distracted, they don't feel pressure, and they don't forget the technique. Thanks to AI and reinforcement learning, these machines are independent. This means we aren't just going to match what we saw in the movies, we're going to blow past it. We'll see a level of brutality and technical precision that Charlie could never match. We'll see movements optimized by algorithms that execute strikes in the exact millisecond with a speed the human eye can barely follow. Reality is going to be much more incredible and terrifying than fiction. It's no longer a man playing at fighting with a remote control. It's an autonomous entity designed for absolute perfection and destruction.
There's a question that Real Steel asks throughout its runtime, and that is whether Adam has a soul or not. In the movie, I don't think so. Adam had nothing like a soul. He didn't look at himself in the mirror and he didn't feel. The ones who really gave him life were the protagonists. Adam served as a blank canvas or a mirror for Charlie to project his technique and Max to project his faith. The robot was an empty vessel that we as spectators wanted to fill with humanity. However, in our current reality, the line between the mirror and consciousness is blurring at a frightening speed. Today, AI models have reached a level of optimization that borders on the unthinkable. We're no longer just talking about algorithms. We have massive models running locally, with vision and expression capabilities almost indistinguishable from humans. We're injecting trillions of data points into these systems, and this is where the unpredictable happens. Unlike the robots in the movie, which depended on an external command, current models operate under a black box. By training a humanoid with such a vast and complex data set, the result is an entity with a unique combat personality. Even if we take two physically identical robots coming out of the same factory with the same motors, the AI model in inhabiting them will make them different. Depending on how they process their training, one might develop tactical aggressiveness, while the other develops a cold defensiveness. Their soul isn't a mystical breath, it's their data set. It's an accumulation of digital experiences and mathematical optimizations that makes them unique. If an algorithm is capable of looking at you, recognizing your strategy, adapting its technique in milliseconds, and making autonomous decisions that seem to have intuition, the line between a perfect simulation and real consciousness stops mattering. Perhaps the soul in the 21st century is nothing more than the peak point of a system's optimization.
In the end, Real Steel presents us with a fascinating paradigm shift. Even though we deal with similar concepts today, this movie is just a tiny window into the real potential we could reach. Notice how interesting it is and how things have changed. Today, we see a movie like Real Steel as something we can easily surpass. That's insane. There's a key scene where Takmashido himself talks about Zeus's autonomous adaptive system. Of course, in fiction, Zeus didn't have the plot armor that was on Adam's side. But what would happen in reality? Well, in the real world, a human could never react as fast as an AI. Biological latency simply cannot compete, especially when you put a physical barrier in the way. This topic is super interesting, and we could talk for hours. But to conclude, I think on one hand, traditional boxing won't disappear. I think the economy won't fully flip to this sport of robots beating the hell out of each other. Instead, I believe we'll have an expansion model similar to horse racing, niche events for enthusiasts, while the massive public moves elsewhere. So, the future is served and the ring is divided. Oil for the anesthetized masses who only seek easy dopamine, and blood for the few who still dare to feel and admire the art of a sport. If you made it this far, thank you. Always remember that if you want to keep receiving unique and interesting content, just hit subscribe. I'm Cyber, and this is CyberZone. I'll see you in the next video.